When you think about the relationship between famous heroes and their biggest rivals, a question naturally emerges. What happens when our favorite superheroes get pushed too far? Because where villains can kill someone just for the sake of it, for heroes this matter is far more complicated. With the majority of costume crusaders having moral codes and limits to restrict them, it takes just that little bit extra for them to actually murder someone, even if that someone is their most hated rival. Generally, this means any comic containing a murderous hero also contains some epic slight against them that finally prompts them to take that route they've avoided for so long and finally crush those who've conspired harm against them. Or alternatively, you could just be Moon Knight and just rip a man's face off without any sort of ethical doubts. Although even that comes with its own special set of ramifications. While these deaths often last for a hilariously short amount of time, they still always have a profound impact on the story, either by affecting the hero or by depriving a given comic of a long-time adversary. So, I'm Ewan from What Culture Comics, and here are 10 comic heroes who killed their biggest rival. Number 10. Superman kills Lex Luthor, Injustice Ground Zero. With Luthor having killed Superman a fair few times in various series and spin-offs featuring the pair, it only seems fair that the Man of Steel also gets to murder Luthor at least once. That once comes in Injustice Ground Zero, and it's exactly as brutal as the rest of the series. After the pair had been allies for years, Luthor finally realizes that his Kryptonian friend has pretty much become Earth's next big dictator, and begins to work against him. In issue number 19, the scientist decides enough is enough, and decides to blast the decidedly unheroic superhero from the sky with the kryptonite ray. This fails, however, as Lex pauses for a split second, heartbroken at having to destroy a man he had begun to genuinely consider a friend. In that moment, Superman becomes aware of his intentions, and body slams the unfortunate bald man before snapping his neck with one poor hand. Poor Lex. Number 9. Captain America kills Red Skull. Captain America Steve Rogers, number 15. Hilariously, Captain America's decision to kill Red Skull comes not while Steve is a proper hero, but when he's actually brainwashed by the Cosmic Cube into working for the evil organization of Hydra. While you'd expect this would make him allies with his Nazi counterpart, it actually serves as his motivation to murder the villain, in order to take his job as the leader of Hydra. Knowing that Schmidt would never willingly relinquish his position, Rogers explains to his longtime adversary that he believes he'd run the team better, and after a brief skirmish, America's former defender casually throws the villain from a window, killing him in one blow. I mean, it doesn't make up for turning the literal Sentinel of Liberty into an avowed fascist, but seeing Red Skull die is cathartic no matter the context. Number 8. Daredevil kills Kingpin. Daredevil End of Days number 1. One of the more famous occasions wherein a superhero has killed their arch-nemesis, Daredevil End of Days saw the Man Without Fear finally murder his longtime enemy and biggest problem, the kingpin of crime himself, Wilson Fisk. The start of End of Days sees Fisk attempt to return to both America and Hell's Kitchen, seeking to be a citizen again after his crimes saw him leave the country. Understandably upset at one of his worst enemies coming right back into his territory, Matt Murdock offers Fisk an ultimatum: leave Hell's Kitchen or be murdered by its only costume vigilante. Underestimating how serious this threat actually was, Kingpin decided to go Daredevil further by fighting him, which earns him a heavy beatdown, resulting in his head being caved in on the New York pavement. It ends up resulting in Matt's death, sure, but the satisfaction alone likely makes this one well worth it. Number 7. Hal Jordan kills Sinestro. Green Lantern number 50. One of the peak points of the infamous Emerald Twilight saga has to be the moment where, in an epic confrontation, Hal Jordan brutally murders his former mentor and biggest rival, Thal Sinestro. It's a particularly unusual fight too, as it's one of few skirmishes the pair have had where Hal has been the one squarely in the wrong. Having fought his former allies in the Green Lantern Corps to steal their rings, Sinestro is released in order to try and stop Jordan's rampage, a task that he obviously fails. After blasting each other with Green Lantern constructs, the pair switch back to good old-fashioned violence, beating on each other with their fists. While it initially appears this will lead to a draw, Jordan is suddenly overtaken with rage and snaps his old mentor's neck, killing him immediately. Gee, I hope this isn't some sort of allusion to how things will go down between me and Jules one day. I mean, he is pretty much a bald David Niven with a big beard, and no, I won't go there. Forget everything I just said. God, the thought of it all. The horror. Number 6. Batman kills the Joker. Various. Generally, when people raise the age-old question of why doesn't Batman just kill the Joker, it's worth reminding them that, in many timelines, he actually does. While the most iconic case of this has to be in the Injustice series, where he dramatically snaps the clown's neck after the villain killed Lois Lane, this isn't the only time the Dark Knight has decided to off the purple and green menace. One of the most interesting new examples of this comes in the recent Dark Knight's Batman Who Laughs Time comic, as it suggests that many of the evil Batmen are in fact created when they kill the Joker. Interestingly, it's revealed that this is the backstory of the Batman Who Laughs himself, as the villain was created by being exposed to a toxin that released from the Joker upon his death. With this in mind, it seems as though the reason that Batman has never killed his nemesis, aside from all those pesky morals, is that he's now just seen how badly things would go for him if he ever were to cave in. Number 5. Spider-Man kills Dr. Octopus. Amazing Spider-Man number 637. Look, I know you're thinking Green Goblin is Spider-Man's greatest rival, and I can agree with that to a certain point, but it's clearly Doc Ock. The man married Aunt May to get control over a secret evil island, for cripe's sake. He is not to be trusted. Amazing Spider-Man number 637 manages to bring us one of the darkest Spider-Man universes ever in the span of 2 pages, when it's revealed that, should the web-slinging hero kill Kraven the Hunter, it will lead down a path of destruction that would see him slaughter all of his enemies, ending with Spidey brutally murdering Dr. Octopus himself. While this scene is unashamedly badass, it's unsettling to see Peter brutally murder a man that he had always seemed to hope one day would be redeemed. With all the terrible things the Doctor has done to Spidey over the years, you'd think that this moment would feel more than deserved, but in actuality, it just feels a lot like him murdering an old man that, in the main timeline, he would have turned into a hero. This said, arguably the real tragedy of all this is that the version of Peter has a rad leather jacket that will tragically now never exist in the main universe. Number 4. Moon Knight kills Bushman. Moon Knight Volume 5, Number 2. Yet again proving that Moon Knight is the goriest franchise Marvel have under their belt, Mark Spector murders his rival in possibly the most gruesome manner imaginable, carving the skin off of his enemy's face to wear as a grim trophy. Spectre doesn't escape unharmed, breaking both knees after falling from a fire escape, but Bushman gets off much worse, as it's unclear if the villain is still conscious through the entire ordeal, which would legitimately make his death one of the worst in comics history. He comes back, of course, but would almost get his face torn off once more in Vengeance of the Moon Knight, marking Raoul as one of the most unlucky villains in comic history. With so much of Volume 5 revolving around Moon Knight's increasing lack of self-control, this serves as a magnificent jumping-off point, as it shows just how unhinged and violent the supposed hero has become. Number 3. Thor kills Gore. Thor God of Thunder number 11. Although you'd initially peg Loki as the arch-enemy of Thor, recent comics have placed the pair less as rivals and more as brothers struggling to take care of each other, with Thor knowing his brother is destined to do terrible things, but insistent on trying to change the course of fate. The role of Thor's arch-rival, then, can be seen to have taken by Gore the God Butcher, who wishes to wipe out the entire roster of Norse gods, starting with the God of Thunder. This starts out quite well for Gore, as he manages to defeat the Odinson several times using his powerful Necro Sword, right until Thor absorbs the weapon and its dark energies into himself, and then turns the very same weapon against the God Butcher. Having weakened the villain immensely, the God of Thunder ends the fight in a classic barbarian tradition, by slicing his head clean off. But she can't keep a good villain down, and thus Gore would return in King Thor number 2, ready to once more battle the gods he hates so dearly. Number 2. Wolverine kills Sabretooth. Wolverine Volume 3, number 55. As a practically unkillable murder machine, it seemed sure that Wolverine would never get to kill Sabretooth in the main Marvel universe. These doubts were safely assuaged in Wolverine number 55, where Logan would find the villain practically feral in the Canadian wilderness. Armed with the Maru Master Blade, one of the few things capable of blocking Creed's healing factor, the hero gets to work putting the mad beast down, starting by chopping his arms off and then finishing with a suitably gory beheading. Although it would later be revealed that this was merely one of countless clones that Romulus had made to stand in for the actual Victor Creed, sigh, it does still count as Wolverine killing Sabretooth, just not the Sabretooth you maybe wanted him to kill. Ah well, old Creed is now stuck somewhere in a bottomless pit on Krakoa. All things considered, maybe he would have preferred decapitation instead. And number 1, Professor X kills Cassandra Nova, New X-Men number 116. A fight that occurs in the literal womb, Charles Xavier and Cassandra Nova's rivalry was one that started as early as a rivalry possibly can. It also made Xavier a murderer literally as early as possible, by having the man's mutant powers manifest while the pair were still in utero, leading to Xavier murdering his twin then and there. While this is justified in universe by saying that Xavier sensed Cassandra was an evil presence, it seems kind of brutal to say that about someone who has literally just grown a brain, especially since Charles also had, and this likely wasn't the best ever judge of character. Somehow, being born dead didn't stop Cassandra, and she would spend her youth growing on a sewer wall, which isn't the worst childhood ever, but surely isn't the best. And that was our list on 10 superheroes who killed their biggest rivals. Have any other interesting examples to share? Let us know in the comments below, and please be sure to hit the bell icon so you don't miss another What Culture Comics video going forward. Once again, I've been Ewan, keep on supporting your local comic book store, and I'll see you next time. Bye!